So last year I did a video, didn't I? And said there'd be a part 2, and it's taken me this long, I guess. Now what I've not done is watch them all through again. Well, I've watched the odd one here and there, obviously, I'm a fan, but because I thought, problem with that is when I do that, the videos get too long, don't they, because I'm giving too much detail. So this is more from memory and stuff. Now the new one comes soon, and obviously David Tennant is the new Doctor as such, but he's not really, obviously, is he? But yeah, anyway, we'll see how that pans out. But this is we're going from the 8th Doctor, I believe, is Paul McGann. And no offence, why would I bother talking about Paul McGann? So I'm going to start from the other one, in the modern era. And obviously, if you know Doctor Who, the 9th Doctor, is it the War Doctor, is it's not in sequence anyway when you find out about him. And that, I believe, was for the other anniversary, because of course it's the 60th anniversary. Now each incarnation is different, so what makes Doctor Who kind of good, because obviously the regeneration brings back a different, still the Doctor, but it doesn't, you know, it's clever the way it did that. It doesn't try to pretend to be the previous person, just a different actor. So they all have their individual personality traits. Now over time, I guess when they change, it takes some getting used to, doesn't it? So it's not always very easy, and some of them you don't warm to straight away, etc. Paul McGann's only in the film, so that's why he's not. Well, it's not just that, I mean, it's Paul McGann. Anyway, this doesn't need to be an extensive kind of waffle of an introduction. I think we all pretty much know what Doctor Who is, even if you haven't actually watched it. So it's just, yeah, and I'll try to be brief this time. And I think there's only 6, isn't there? So you've got Lucky, obviously not the new one, because although we know who it is, we haven't met them yet. Alright, I'll crack on. So first up is John Hurt, who's the 9th Doctor. Now he's someone they've all kind of blocked out from their memory, because what he did in their eyes was so horrific and so terrible that they just didn't want to kind of remember being him. And basically during the Time War with the Daleks, he's responsible for killing all the Time Lords as well. And as far as they see it, because obviously this war has been going on for a long time and the Daleks are attacking Gallifrey, so he creates a weapon to wipe them all out. Now then, John Hurt, as we know, great actor, kind of gruff man of a certain age. One of the last things he did, I think, before he died. Very classy and what have you. And he kind of suits the role of, he can't really understand why they don't kind of remember him or feel anything towards him and stuff. But anyway, so it develops that obviously he did this out of goodness to save them as such, because ultimately Gallifrey gets hidden away and the Time War stops, and the kind of spread of the Daleks and whatnot kind of ends, and eventually they kind of realise this and they feel quite sorry for him, because what he had to do was so kind of terrible. And that, anyway, he's only in 3 episodes, so there's not a right lot to go into it. But he's obviously like them. He's a bit daft, he's very charming, he's a bit quirky and whatnot. But what I've gone for him is Myths Man from Amwash. Now I've gone for that one because, well, it's the smouldering ashes, isn't it? But also in there is a kind of the florals, the gentle side, the niceness, the soft Doris, the powderiness, the kind of warmth and elegance. And Horace has a kind of sadness about it, doesn't it, really? So I think that kind of suits him as a person. And obviously the kind of continuation of the ashes and that, and what he had to do, although it wasn't quite as bad as it seems, just all seemed to go really well together. Now obviously I'm not going to rabbit on loads because there's just not much about someone who was in 3 episodes and that, but he is the misunderstood Doctor, and he's still important to be there, and it's John Hurt, so yeah, of course he's there. So for the War Doctor, that Doctor, John Hurt, is Myths from and Why. So first up, well not first, but you know what I mean, is kind of the first one to come to our screens again properly, and that's Christopher Eccleston. Now you could call him the unluckiest, really. Obviously bringing it back was quite a big deal, and it's kind of experimental. Now Christopher Eccleston is quite a famous actor, really, isn't he? And was famous obviously a long time before Doctor Who, as he's, you know, he is one of the great actors. And yeah, for them to pick a northern actor as well was quite a big deal, I guess. But he obviously comes in, and as a Doctor, we're talking about them as doctors really, there's lots of enthusiasm, he's a lot of fun, but he's kind of, I suppose it's kind of like they're taking the audience on this journey as well. He's a bit unsure of everything. Obviously technically he follows, well, to us outside of the Doctor Who world, he follows Sylvester McCoy. There was quite a gap, wasn't there? So he's kind of curious about who he is and what's going on. Now his companion is Billie Piper, who's probably the most famous of them all. I think people forget she kind of started with him, and they do have a great chemistry, because she's as wondrous and kind of curious as he is about it all, and he's kind of getting his feet. Now as a Doctor, he's quite kind, he's quite fun, but he also, maybe this is coming from the other Doctors, he understands he has to set kind of boundaries and guidelines and stuff, and he's quite abrupt. I don't think he needs to be, that's just his character, and he's not really used to it all, is he? So there's certain things that happen, like about doing things he shouldn't, such as taking Billy back to see, Rose back to see her dead dad, and also how he died, and then the kind of the quandary and the mess it makes when she tries to save him and stuff. And he gets quite, he's torn with it as well, but obviously it's quite a difficult phase for them both to go through. And yeah, so he does have a kind of gentle side, but also quite a serious, as well as a kind of paternal side about him. Unlike with a lot of the others, there's no silly romance and what have you. He's just kind of there as he's taking her along really, and he's quite down to earth. Now what I think happened with Christopher Eccleston is, sadly, because he was so successful, a Doctor Who did so well, they wanted to replace him with someone with some sort of pizzazz. Hence we got David Tennant, who'd been Casanova before that. And yeah, you know, looking back, maybe it worked. It was quite sad for Christopher Eccleston, because he seems like one who was a missed opportunity again. They could have done a lot more with him. He was very good at it, and he was very, you know, an enjoyable Doctor. So what I've picked for him, I'm not going to waffle on about all this, is Dioram. Because I mean the wind is no good, is it? Okay, I've snapped out of my mood. It's still very hot, there's no wind today. It's probably like a week later than I started filming this. But yeah, Dioram. Why does that kind of go with Christopher Eccleston? Well, it's a kind of friendly everyman fragrance. It's got a warmth and a kind of sensuality about it. It's also kind of his day when he was the Doctor, so it takes you way back, doesn't it? And it's just the sort of thing he'd wear. He'd be appealing, fun, people would like being around him. He's got a little bit of a kind of nostalgic feel to him, because again he brought the kind of series, the thing, all back alive again. Without Christopher Eccleston, maybe we wouldn't be talking about Doctor Who or waiting for the new one and that. So yeah, I'm not gonna like waffle on and on and on and on. It's long enough, isn't it? So for Christopher Eccleston is Dior on, and a massively underrated Doctor. You were great, Christopher. Thank you. Now after Christopher Eccleston came the guy who we all kind of, he's most people's favourites. He's one of my favourites, and he is probably the one we most associate with Doctor Who in the modern times, and that's David Tennant. Now David Tennant was kind of, I wouldn't say a big star before it, but he was known, and he's gone on to some big things since as well. But he is the one we kind of all associate with the Doctor, and me included. Probably wished he'd gone on for much longer, but for his own career and for Doctor Who, that, you know, it couldn't happen, could it really? Although he is the latest Doctor, isn't he? I wanted to put this out before it, so I'm not influenced by how he is in the new one. We talk about David Tennant here. Now he inherited Billie Piper, Rose, as his kind of assistant and stuff. Now him and Rose had some sort of chemistry, you know, creepy few 100-year-old, 1,000-year-old, million-year-old at some point man wandering around with 20-something-year-old Rose, but whatever. Anyway, they do develop a connection, and because they're probably quite similar in age as actors, it kind of really works. She's obviously very into him, and at first it's quite difficult because he's quite helpless Doctor when he starts, and when he's gone through his regeneration. It seems to last longer in this one and in a few of the others. And he's David Tennant. He's mental. He's short of a few beans. He's very kind of eccentric. He's very out there. He's very full of energy. He's a bit of an opposite of Christopher Eccleston. He's kind of just a bit mad, and yeah. And their relationship slowly develops on and on and on, and becomes quite a part of the story and that. And you do kind of develop a great affection for them both. And eventually, obviously, they needed a change of assistant and stuff, so they get separated. Billie doesn't die, actually. They get separated into parallel universes, because after kind of Billie's connection with the Rose's connection with the you know, the bad wolf thing that was in the previous Doctor, but her connection to the Daleks and things, and her dad exists in another universe where he's not dead, so she ends up going there. And yeah, it's quite sad that they're separated by this. At the end he goes to kind of talk at a point, a break between the two universes, and tells her his feelings. Anyway, after Billie, Rose is Martha Jones, who he has a good connection with. Now Martha's not interested as much in the old romance, although obviously she fancies him, but he's blind to that. I mean, Doctor Who's not a romance show, so good. And she kind of hangs on to him and stuff, but she's very strong-minded, very independent, doesn't really need him as much as Rose did, if you like. So it's a very different dynamic, and he sort of develops a bit more as a Doctor. He's a little bit more sullen and sad, still crazy. Does he find out he has a daughter? Then maybe. Yeah, his daughter, which is just a kind of clone made from his DNA, I believe. I can't really remember. And the person who plays his daughter is his real life wife, who is also the daughter of Peter Davison, another Doctor Who, so it's a weird old connection there. But anyway, waffling on. Yeah, the Martha thing doesn't go quite so great, and she does leave, and then it's a much kind of happier dynamic with Kathy Tate, who is Donna Noble, that's it. And then that's a completely different dynamic. There's no kind of romance or anything there, or hint of suggestion of it at all, and they get on really well. Donna's quite sharp and abrupt, it's quite rough, and yeah, she's quite brilliant. And as a Doctor, does he change a bit more? Maybe he gets a bit more of his spark back, and his sense of enjoyment and stuff. And in the end, he obviously has to sacrifice himself to save Donna's granddad. Now, to save Donna, he has to wipe her memory, and she completely forgets him and everything they've done. But his granddad sees him die. Her granddad sees him die and stuff, because he gets himself stuck, and the only way he can save him is to go into the other thing and release it. And after spending so much time with him, and him kind of being the Doctor, if you like, that's why there's not much to say about him, because you just get so much of him, which sounds weird. But there's no sharp developments and stuff. It's a very kind of organic thing. And yeah, he saves Donna's granddad, and he dies, and it's quite sad. And when he's saying, "I don't want to go yet," I think we all feel that. He does other daft stuff, like he has a relationship with Queen Elizabeth I. Trying to think. Well, that'll do for now. I'm going to go on for hours and hours and hours. What I've picked for David Tennant is Bouquet Encore from L'Orchestre Parfums. And this is because it's an explosion of colour. Florals, spices, pepper. It's crazy. It's just a mass of colours and warmth. It's a big tuberose, I think. It smells kind of sunset orange. And yeah, it describes him. He kind of comes in with a big burst of spice and excitement and joy, and the pepper and the warmth. And it generally dries down into being just a warm, beautiful hue that you all you really enjoy and want a bit more of. And it does last a long time, like him. So yeah, L'Orchestre Parfums Bouquet Encore for David Tennant. Next is a Doctor who again is quite divisive, I suppose, but again quite an unlucky Doctor to follow David Tennant, and that's Matt Smith. Now, at the time, Matt Smith was the youngest to play Doctor Who. That's of course changed as of the future, but he wasn't that well known an actor actually, and he was quite an awkward person at playing it. It's like getting his personality right was difficult, because obviously he didn't want him to be like David Tennant. He never tried to be, but a bit wacky. I find Matt Smith quite detached, really. And obviously the first time I watched them all, it wasn't easy to like him, and there was huge gaps and not many from him because of other commitments and stuff, which is annoying, and we'll come into that a bit later actually. But yeah, he starts off with his relationship with what's her face, Amy Pond, and it's more of a nurturing kind of thing, more of a kind of cool uncle with her. He meets her as a child, and yeah, there isn't kind of a romancy element, although I think it's implied that she fancies him. Obviously she's with Rory, and they both play a kind of dynamic, and he kind of grows as someone who wants to protect more than anything. He does have an admiration with her, and a deep love of her, but in a kind of paternal kind of way, if you like. And then after her, because Rory and Amy stop, it's getting so dangerous and stuff, and yeah, they want a family and etc. So in comes oh god, what the hell's her actual name? Hang on. Yes, Clara. In comes Clara, who's Jenna Coleman. I keep wanting to call her Jenna. I don't know these people yet. I see call them by the first names. Anyway, Clara is a whole different ball game. She's kind of massively independent, and she does have very strong feelings for that particular doctor and affection for him. But she kind of wants to lead the way, if you like. She's most certainly not a kind of passive kind of assistant, if you like, and she's quite lovely. She gets quite cocky. We first met her with David Tennant, was it? As a Dalek, but she's the impossible girl, isn't she? And you can't understand where she comes from and that. And there's a whole journey with. I've already spoke about the assistant, so I'm not going to go too much into it. But it's discovering why she exists and where she comes from, because she keeps popping up through history. So that develops a kind of intrigue between him and her, and again an affection. Now he should have been the last Doctor, the 13th Doctor. Is he technically? I suppose so. But for what he does, he's a hero, basically, keeping away the Daleks and all stuff. So the Time Lords grant him with unlimited regenerations, or when he died that would have been the end, but as it happens it's not. And yeah, that's what I've kind of picked kind of briefly about him. What I've picked for him is Angel from Mugler. Now this is an interesting one, why I've gone for it. Like I said, I had to watch it through a few times to like him and enjoy him, which I do actually. I think he's very good at it. But first time of watching him, yeah, you're a bit, it's the David Tennant hangover, isn't it? So you're a bit whatever. But Mugler's Angel was a groundbreaking one, youthful one as such, and it took a long time for people to get used to it. And again, you either love it or hate it. You kind of, I think it's one that would definitely grow on you either way, like Matt Smith did. Obviously we know it a little bit kind of patchouli, not really, but a little bit of sweetness. It's the sweet patchouli that's kind of the main part of it. Maybe a little bit rubbery, a little bit unusual. Sometimes it can be a little bit dangerous, yeah. And it's one that obviously has, probably all of us have associations with as well. So I just find it a good one for him because of him being so, yeah, I think you either love Matt Smith or hate him. Like I say, I kind of flipped, and you can, as we appreciate things from the past and revisit them, you can start to like them, like I imagine a lot of people with Angel, and now they smell the new versions. They wish the old versions still exist. Anyway, enough. That's Matt Smith, and for him, Angel from Mugler. So next we have my favourite Doctor, Peter Capaldi. Now he's very different to any of the Doctors that have gone before. He's a much kind of darker entity, if you like. He's got much more feeling than any of the others as well, I think. He's much more kind of gloomy and almost given up with it all. He comes into it, and Clara kind of rejects him because he's not Matt Smith, and she's quite awful to him actually. And he does kind of need her to get his feet on the ground and stuff. And ultimately, he starts off with one of the first episodes where he kind of, you don't know whether he's killed someone or whether he's put them out of their misery and helped them really. But it does kind of imply this, maybe a different side of the Doctor, a more realistic, less joyous side. And as that goes on, it kind of, that's how it is. His kind of feelings in a kind of paternal, protective way, because he is still the old Doctor, isn't he, with Clara. Involves my favourite episode, which is where he's kind of stuck in this never-ending maze, which takes him, it's either 3 million or 30 million years to get out of. He has to keep repeating and doing the same thing and the same thing, and that is to protect Clara, to kind of, yeah, because that's what really matters to him. It turns out it's something to do with the Time Lords have set this up, which is cruelty and stuff, so he goes back to sort them out and has a good strong word with them as a rebel and stuff, and kind of goes against it, because really Clara should be dead, and he still tries to go against that, and in the end he accepts that, and he accepts everything, but he does go through an awful lot for her, and yeah, it's quite sad. And after Clara there's Nardwall and is her name Billy? Hang on again. Yes, it's Bill, sorry. Probably my least favourite of all the kind of assistants. Not that there's anything wrong with her. But anyway, he's looking after Missy, who is an incarnation of the Master, and who's also responsible for what happened to Clara to a point. Quite sad, really. Anyway, also actually what happens to Bill in the end, she suffers quite a sad ending with it. But he's kind of he's her lecturer. He kind of has a very caring, paternal kind of thing with her, and is trying to help her out and that, and go through his own. He has a lot of pain. River Song obviously dies and stuff, which is quite hard for him to get over, and it's just it's really quite a sad, dark, kind of despairing Doctor. Don't get me wrong, he still has a laugh, he still has a lot of fun, he thinks he's rather cool and stuff. I suppose he's the kind of Doctor I can relate to the most out of them all. And anyway, not going to waffle on and on and on about it, but yeah, I personally was very sad when he went as well. But what I've picked for him is Poupée d'Automne from Maisonville. Getting better, aren't I? And that's because it's a mauve purple scent. It's autumn. It's the sky, kind of that kind of last splash of colour, and all the colours around, and a kind of slow but majestic, proud walk towards the end, with a little bit of darkness but still some warmth in there. And I think it just kind of very much suits his Doctor Who. So yeah, don't need to ramble on. For Peter Capaldi is Poupée d'Automne from Maisonville. And finally, the kind of final Doctor we'll be talking over is, what again, criminally underused one that's so many missed opportunities with, and that's Jodie Whittaker, who is utterly fantastic as the Doctor. I think she's brilliant. She's got all the wonder and the kind of joy and excitement of them. She's very warm and caring and protective. She has lots of assistants. Obviously, again, one where a kind of romance could or couldn't happen, but she says it's too painful to think about that, etc. But yeah, it's interesting. But obviously the first female Doctor, which there's another Doctor in that episode, we're not going to talk about them all in that season, who's also a woman Doctor and things. And what this should have done, maybe more, is not point out so much that she's a woman. She's the Doctor. It's not neither a man nor a woman. It's just whichever body they end up choosing and stuff. But anyway, don't go overboard with that. She has some really great stories, and she develops again with more of a sadness, because she discovers who she really is, which technically isn't a Time Lord, and that hopefully they do go more into this in the next episodes. She obviously comes across the master again. He's kind of the bad guy, and kind of their relationship and what's happened between them and their friendship and that complicated kind of relationship. So yeah, she's really good, and they did give her perhaps too much and rushed through it, and then she just wasn't the Doctor for long enough. But again, it's commitments of what she was doing, but it always begs the questions, why pick that person? You know, why should we be waiting 2 or 3 years? It's not fair on her either, is it, to kind of do it? And then, yeah, so she was the last Doctor technically, and I don't have a lot to say about her because it's just not enough. And I have watched them back a few times, and she is good, but they don't really, I don't know, they just don't develop her enough. Is she the shortest one? Perhaps, I don't know. I can't, maybe Matt Smith technically with the episodes is. But yeah, there could have been a lot more, and she was very warm, very fun, and really kind of a very enjoyable Doctor. But what I've picked for her is something unusual, but you know, impactful, and again a bit divisive, I suppose, and that's Black Orchid from Tom Ford. As we know, patchouli, weird fruits, kind of booziness, the kind of smell, fancy smell of an orchid and all of that. And yeah, it's a really good legendary fragrance, and I think we'll look back in the future in many years at Jodie Whittaker as a really brilliant Doctor who just didn't get the opportunity, and that there really aren't many with her in. It dragged a bit. Obviously, I think did it slap over COVID? Maybe, which, you know, it's bad timing, and they could have pushed more. And where they find out about who the Doctor is and where she came from and stuff, or they came from, is interesting. But again, more please. So yeah, it was good. They also give her, it's not fair to say because she's a woman, to give her a warmer side, but again, like some of the others, she has a very kind of paternal side. And Black Opium, because it takes you back, and it was older women in our day, I guess, and it just smells magnificent nowadays. It suits people our age, doesn't it? So yeah, I'm whittering on. For Jodie Whittaker is Black Opium from Tom Ford. So that's it. They're kind of the Doctors to date. Obviously David Tennant's coming in now, and then the new fella, the new person after that. So it's going to go on for a few more years. For me, the Stephen Moffat, the League of Gentlemen guy, I'll remember his name. But them two worked together on it, and I liked the darker, complex kind of background underneath everything, kind of stories that they had. They're kind of going into the depths, a bit of a darker side of him, which they worked on perhaps more with Peter Capaldi than any of the other Doctors, probably because he could pull it off more. But that's what we want from Doctor Who. Maybe that's more of an adult thing, where we want Doctor Who to have more about it than just scary kind of bad guys kind of thing, and the same old people coming in and out. So yeah, we'll see where it goes, because obviously they've got Stephen Moffat back now, haven't they, I believe. So hopefully it'll develop and grow still, and not become too daft. I think also Netflix or Amazon or someone, or Disney, were interested in investing in it. We don't want it to be some nonsense American crap. Part of its charm is kind of the kind of cheesy elements of it and stuff, and it looks good for considering the budgets are quite small and that. So let's hope it doesn't get ruined. Anyway, waffling. Who's your favourite Doctor? How would you scent them all? Where do you see the future going? Alright folks, thanks, bye.